Alright. Hey guys. Well, I'm actually making a new video, a new what if, and I'm actually excited about this one because, I didn't even, pre-make a thumbnail, which I usually do. I have, maybe three what ifs that I already have the thumbnail for, but I just haven't started recording them. But yeah, this one I was just excited to make, and I thought, it's almost summer, it's getting hot outside. What could I record a video off of, right? And then I was like, okay. And I saw someone did what if Deku was the Avatar, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cool, but it's OP, and I'm like, I want one element because four is outdoing it, and then you got all the branch elements, and then you got lightning, ooh, sorry. But anywho, the way I want to do this, well, if you're reading the title, you obviously have if you've clicked on this video. But yeah, this is what if Deku was a waterbender. By no means am I the first to do this. I'm pretty sure, yeah, a lot of people have done this one. I was surprised that more people have done waterbender than airbender, or even I think maybe firebender, but I'm not sure. There's a whole lot of waterbender ones, and I didn't expect that. I thought people would be like, oh, waterbender, kind of mid as an element, but I mean, it's really not. Waterbender, by far, is, in my opinion, one of the best. Well, they're all actually kind of relative, you know what I mean? I wouldn't say one's clearly better than the other, you know what I mean? Other than blood bending, which that's just fucking broken. Let's be real. But yeah. Also, if you're wondering, I am gonna kind of turn it into a sort of quirk thing, but I do want to add features. I don't want to go into that whole, oh, the whole world is actually just bending, but it's evolved to quirks, because how the fuck does bending make my fingers longer, you know what I mean? But oh god, I'm getting Discord notifications on this bitch. Give me a second. Quit Discord on my computer. What the fuck am I thinking, bro? Where's my phone? I don't even have it. But it doesn't matter where my phone is. All that matters is this video. Now let's get into it. So Deku, he's born same day. It's averaged, just like normal. So, he lives a normal childhood. I'd say around close to canon, but Deku, he has this natural, sort of thing with water. It's he likes to take baths. It's nothing weird. It's just he likes to go swimming. He likes to go to baths. He's a normal kid. Just he likes to go to the water a lot. So his parents are maybe he has a water-based quirk, which is how she's that's kind of weird. I got a fire-breathing quirk. You've got a levitation quirk. Water quirk doesn't really match up, It goes what you're trying to say. That's how she... Nothing. So, when Deku becomes 4, he goes to the quirk doctor after seeing Bakugo's quirk. Bakugo's quirk, it's amazing, yada yada, blah blah blah, whatever. So, Deku, he's he's just thinking to himself oh, I can't wait, to go find out my quirk. And, he goes to the quirk doctor, and they run tests, because, he does have the joint in his leg, or not does, he doesn't, I'm guessing. Isn't he not supposed to have the joint? I don't even remember. He just has the bone, or does not have the bone that's required to have quirks. And can my siblings shut the fuck up? Alright, but, give me a second. Alright, I'm back. I just beat up my siblings. Yeah, that was great. No, I'm joking. But, anywho. So, they're we're gonna just run some tests, see, what your child's quirk might be. And, you know, Inko's like, oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, that's great, you know. So, you know, they go to the Quirk, they go to the Quirk doctor, they go to test the Quirk. So, you know, they're like, try to breathe fire, because, you know, they look at the medical records, and they're like, okay, this is what the parents can do. You know, Deku, he goes, you know, he tries to breathe, like, and then nothing happens. And, you know, they're like, okay, try to pick up this bouncy ball. You know, Deku picks it up normally at first, and they're like, you try to use your quirk maybe to do it. Because, you know, they're like, what's this kid up to? So, you know, Deku, he tries to pick it up with his mind. He's like, up, go, up, please. And nothing happens. And they're like, okay, he doesn't seem to have either of his parents' quirk. That's completely normal. You know, they're writing on their paper and junk, you know, like, they're like, and then, you know, like, alright, can you now do something comfortable, you know, just try to let your body float, you know, move around, just let yourself relax, you know, Deku's like, okay, you know, so Deku, you know, he sort of like lets himself relax, you know, loosens the muscles, all that, you know, he you know, he just like does this like, you know, he waves his arms in like a way where it's like, it just like flows like water, kind of, you know. At first they're like, okay, it seems like something might happen. And, you know, just then, like, the faucet thing where, you know, where you wash your hands in the faucet, it just pops off. You know, they're like, what the fuck just happened? And then the water, you know, shoots up. But instead of falling back down or spraying anyone or doing anything like that, it starts to, like, flow around, you know, Deku, kind of. But it's not, like, a bunch of water. It starts off with, like, a little bit, like, a few droplets, and, you know, it slowly gathers up. But, you know, eventually it gets kind of, like, heavy for him, so, you know, he can't, like, relax his muscles, and then it just falls. You know, Deku's like, my bad. You know, he scratches the back of his head, all that stuff. You know, they're like, okay, water manipulation. It's like, okay, kid, we think your power is to manipulate water, but you can't create water. Seems like a pretty all-around normal quirk, and if you train it hard enough, you could probably get it to be pretty dang good, kid. You could probably become a hero. You know, Deku, you know, he's excited to hear this, because, like, in all truth, water manipulation, it isn't a bad quirk by any means. So he's like, yeah, I could become like that one firefighter hero. Or, like, if he's still doing his stuff, when I become a hero, we could, like, team up to where he'd shoot water, and I'd, like, control it. Bro, no, so Deku's fanboying out. Inko, she's happy to hear this. You know, they're like, yeah, you know, do you have any, like, history of water-based quirk users in your, you know, family line? You know, they ask Inko. Inko's like, no, like, not really. And, you know, they're like, yeah, we can see the manipulation part. We just don't really understand the water part. Especially since your husband breathes fire. Like, you know, it's a bit weird. You know, Inko's like, yeah, I guess so. But anyway, you know, Deku, he tries using his quirk more often. You know, he even, like, tries to use it to, like, wash dishes and stuff. You know, he tries to, like, feel out his quirk. But he quickly realizes that it's not that strong right now. You know, Bakugo, he can make pops in his hand. So, like, Deku can pick up water. So it's, like, pretty even right now. But Deku also thinks to himself, he's like, well, that fire hose hero, he can shoot a ton of water. But I can't do anything like that. I can't even control a ton of water like that yet. So, you know, Deku thinks about it. And then he's like, I think I know what I can do. So he just jumps on his computer, he goes on Google, and he Googles best way to train water-based quirks. Boom. You know, a lot of people, like, I highly, and I mean highly, doubt that nobody has ever had a water manipulation quirk in My Hero Academia. Like, come on. Even the fire hydrant hero, I'm pretty sure he can manipulate water. Koda, I think maybe one of his parents could manipulate water. I'm pretty sure he can just shoot water. But, you know, oh yeah, Koda's gonna absolutely, like, be a fan of Deku. Oh my god, I did not think of that. But, you know, Koda, you know, he can shoot water as a little kid, but Deku can only pick up, like, pretty small amounts of water, like a water bottle's amount of water. So, you know, Deku's like, okay, I need to train this. So he Googles it, and then he's like, okay, I know what I'll start to do. So immediately, first thing he does, he hops into his tub, because, you know, he's a little kid. He can't be like, Mom, I'm gonna go to the beach. But what's it called? Unless Inko, like, allows him to go. So he goes to, you know, the bathroom. He turns on the water, lets the bathtub, like, fill up a little bit. You know, Inko, you know, she was curious because she was walking by. And she was like, what's he up to? And, you know, Deku, like, pushes his arms out. And, like, the water, it sort of waves to the other side of the bath from him. And then he pulls his arms back, and then, like, the water waves back to him. So he just starts, like, repeating this process, like, from back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And Inko's like, Izuku, baby, what are you doing? And, you know, Deku, he's huffing because, like, this is, like, exercising a muscle in a way. He's like, well, I'm training my quirk by using my manipulation repeatedly on a large body of water, and then once I do that, it should train my ability to manipulate more water in a better rate. So I think this will work. You know, Inko's like, well, my kid's pretty damn smart. So, you know, Inko, she doesn't really see an issue with this because, you know, it's better than blowing up the faucet. The better he learns how to manipulate his water, the more of her dishes are gonna get cleaned way easier. And she's like, well, maybe when you get old enough, you can do a car washing service or something to get money. You know, Deku, he looks at her, he's like, that is genius. You know, after explaining his whole thing, he thinks that's pretty fucking smart. So, you know, Deku repeats this process, obviously, until he gets very tired, and then he's like, oh, I'm going to my room. So, you know, he goes to his room, he flops on his bed, all that stuff. You know, this was all, like, in the weekend span of him learning what his quirk was, right? So he goes to school the next day, and, you know, everybody's like, oh my god, you know, Izuku, what's your quirk? We heard you went to the quirk doctor. Or you were going to quirk doctor. You told us, remember? You know, Deku's like, oh yeah, my quirk is that I can manipulate water. You know, Bakugo, he's like, that sounds kind of dumb. Like, water is not cooler than explosions. You know, Deku, you know, he's a little bit annoyed by this, obviously. So, you know, he's like, well, Bakugo, you said that your quirk ignites your sweat, and that's pretty nasty. You know, Bakugo's like, what? What'd you just say? Like, my quirk's awesome, alright? Your quirk's nasty. You control water. What's been in that water? You know, they start having a childish-ass argument. But, you know, kids kind of agree that Bakugo sweating explosions is kind of nasty. You know, this pisses off Bakugo. So he tries to shoot an explosion at Deku. And, you know, Deku, he's like, is it sweat is explosions. So what if, you know, Bakugo, he goes to shoot his explosion, and then nothing happens other than like a minuscule pop that would normally activate his quirk. You know, Bakugo, he is confused. You know, he's like, why didn't my quirk just work there? You know, Deku sort of laughs, and you know, Bakugo, he's confused. He's like, what the hell's so funny, you know? You know, Deku's like, well, I manipulated your sweat. You know, Bakugo's like, what? He's like, you know, Deku, he like moves his hand slightly, and like a little ball of water, like ball of a liquid, more like lives like in front of Bakugo's face. You know, Bakugo's like, what the hell is that? He's like, that's your sweat. You know, now everybody's like, that's pretty gross. You know, then Deku's like, yeah, but like, if Bakugo ignites this, it'll make a pretty big explosion. And you know, the kids, they're psyched up. They're like, big boom. You know, because they're kids. Of course, the teachers, having any sort of common sense right now, stop the kids from setting off an explosion in the class. And they're like, no, we're not going to do that. Izuku, put that away in like the sink or something. I don't know. You know, Deku's like, okay. You know, he does so. Bakugo, he's also pissed off because his quirk doesn't work on Deku. You know, now we time skip to around high school because I always make UA at college. This is like a rule with me. So, you know, who the hell would I make the ship? Would I you guys comment down below whoever the hell you think the ship should be. So, after this, you know, Deku, he goes to school. It's around the end of the year. You know, the teacher's like, alright, in this paper you're gonna write down, what do you all want to be? You know, everybody, you know, they're like, you know, they're bummed out. And then the teacher throws the papers in the air. It's like, I'm kidding, I know you all want to be heroes. You know, everybody just then gets all psyched up, ready to go. They're like, hell yeah, woo, you know, they're using their quirks and stuff. Deku, you know, he's like, woo, yeah, but he doesn't really use his quirk because, like, that's kind of extra. Bakugo, you know, he's sitting with his feet on his desk. He jumps up onto the tables, and he's like, shut up, you extras. None of you are going to get into UA. Only I'm going to get into UA because I am Bakugo Katsuki. I'm the realest of the real. And the teacher interrupts him. Oh, Midoriya, you're going to UA. You know, Bakugo, he stops. He's like, what? You know, he turns towards Deku. You know, Deku is just sitting there. He's like, oh, yeah, I signed up for the hero course. Hopefully that goes well. You know, Bakugo turns around, the teacher's like, oh, Bakugo, you're also going for UA. You know, Bakugo's like, of course I'm going to go for UA. I'm definitely going to make it, other than this nerd. What the hell is he going to do with this fucking water? Shoot a spray gun at them? You know. And, you know, a few kids, like, snicker at this. They laugh a little. Because Deku, you know, he's not like Bakugo where he flaunts his quirk around. But, you know, he uses it from time to time to help people out. Like, you know, people get, like, water stains in their shirt or, like, some sort of stain. He, like, uses quirk to, like, pull it out of their shirt and good as new, you know what I mean? Which is pretty damn useful now that I think about it. So after that, you know, Deku, you know, he's like, yeah, whatever, alright. You know, he gets up and he's about to leave after, like, you know, everybody's left and stuff like that. You know, Bakugo, he's trying to, like, intimidate Deku. He's like, oh, hey, Deku, you know, I'm gonna kill you, yada yada, fight me, blah blah blah. But, you know, Deku's not having any of this, so he immediately just, like, pulls the sweat from Bakugo, chucks it out the window into, like, the little fish pond. Hopefully that doesn't kill the fish. You know, Bakugo, he's pissed off because now he can't make an explosion, and Bakugo's goons are like, you know, they're growling and pissed off at Deku. You know, Deku really does not care, and, you know, he just walks out. you know, after that, Bakugo's pretty damn pissed. But, he can't really do anything about it unless he just goes for a run and has a bunch of sweat. But even then, he really still can't do anything about it. So, after that, Deku starts heading home. He wants to get home as fast as possible to tell his mom that he wants to go start training for UA. But he runs into a Sludge villain, Deku, he's walking and, he's not really, talking to himself like you would in the anime. He's a pretty chill kid, And then the Sludge villain pops out and kid, I'll need your body. He jumps out at him. And Deku is like, you just came from the sewer. That's nasty. So Deku immediately, pulls his arms up. And, right before the Sludge villain can get him, the pipes had burst open. And just, pipes from the ceiling above had burst open and came down, making, a little wall between him and the Sludge villain, right? And, the Sludge villain's, pretty confused about this. And, if you're wondering, why doesn't he manipulate the Sludge villain? Because he manipulates water, not sludge. But, nitroglycerin, I mean, it's a liquid. I'm gonna let that one slide because it's, an actual, non-thick kind of liquid that, would work, I guess. Because if it works as sweat, I'm gonna say it could work through waterbending. A lot of people are not gonna agree with me, but they never specify on chemicals and stuff. Because there's chemicals in water, but they can still manipulate it. But so the Sludge villain's initially confused, and then Deku, who had his arms wide open before, he closes it around in a sort of ring, he brings his arm around he's hugging someone, but not really, but more he stops it from one hand to another, so it just makes a sort of circle, right? Yeah, you know what I mean. He makes a circle with his arms outstretched, and it makes the water circle around the Sludge villain and pillar the Sludge villain, not pillar him, but it puts him within a pillar of water. The Sludge villain's initially confused, right? As of what the hell is going on. And then Deku, having that ring, he sort of turns it to the side, and it makes the other side of the water close in. So it makes a ball of water. Which, I mean, that was a really extra way to say that he just made a ball of water, but he made a ball of water, So Sludge villain, he's trapped in this ball and he's pissed. He's like, let me out of here. Oh, when I get out of here, I'm gonna kill you. Yada, yada, yada. And then, All Might lands. He's like, I am here. And he looks and he sees the Sludge villain in some water. Deku's like, oh shit, it's All Might. So, All Might's like, oh, thank you, young man. Could you please put that villain in this cup? Or not cup, but, the little bottle shit that he had. Deku's like, sure. He's lets the villain flow into the water. Or flow into the sort of container into different pieces because the villain's pretty fucking big. So after that, All Might's like, thank you, young man, you saved me time. He's like, well, he sort of points at the pipe that's busted now. He's like, yeah, my bad, man. I can't create water, so, All Might's like, happens. Of course, it's next time wait for the heroes or something, and, Deku's like, yeah, okay, whatever you say, sir. All Might sort of, he's like, do you want an autograph or something? Deku's like, yeah, I'd enjoy an autograph. So then Deku gets an autograph. He doesn't really hold the notebook around. Well, he holds the notebook around, but it's more what he can do with his quirk and what situations does his quirk work best. At first you think, okay, his quirk wouldn't work well anywhere, or not anywhere, why am I saying that? His quirk would well in a hot environment, but you have to remember sweat is a liquid that he can control, so, like, yeah. After that, after that, he starts just heading straight home. He doesn't have to worry about the Sludge villain because he didn't really have to grab All Might because he's pretty confident in his chances of becoming a hero. But, you know, he still goes towards the house and stuff like that. He talks to his mom. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to do some Quirk training. You know, she's like, where do you think you want to, like, train your Quirk? And, like, Deku originally, he was like, I'd probably go to some beach and go do it. You know, Inko's like, well, you should also get your strength up, your body strength, because, you know, you can't have a strong Quirk but just be weak. You know, Deku's like, I see your point. And she's like, mm-hmm. So while you're at it, do some community service. You know, Deku's like, what? And then she explains about Dagobah Beach and how she had loved to go there with Hisashi before it got covered in trash, and how she was really sad to see it. So she'd appreciate if he used his strength training by moving the trash. And, you know, Deku's like, okay, yeah, that could be like strength training for me. You know, I could set a little training regimen and stuff like that. So, you know, he nods to his mom, and then after that, he starts heading out. Goddamn, I'm already 30 minutes. I need a cup of water. I'll be back. Whew, I just jugged down a whole water bottle in one go. That shit was great. But yeah. So after that, you know, Deku goes to Dagobah Beach, sees how dirty it is, and he's just like, shit, I have my work cut out for me. So, you know, Deku gets to work. He starts cleaning. You know, in his first day, he struggles with a lot of stuff, but he starts off with stuff he knows he could probably lift first in order to build up his muscles first. He doesn't, like, overdo it, like, the fridges and stuff. And, you know, as much as he wants to cheat with his Quirk, you know, he tries his best not to, but, you know, at times he'll cut for himself. So, you know, we'll just time skip to probably, we're gonna say like halfway through the, what's it called, halfway through the, I think it was 10 months, oh my god, I forgot, 10 months, you know, training break. So, you know, Deku, he pretty much he's cleared out the beach entirely. It looks beautiful, looks great. You know, Deku's like, alright, I'm halfway through the training, and I think I did pretty well. You know, Deku's pretty fucking ripped. You know, it's nothing crazy, but, you know, he's pretty well built type shit. So immediately he's like, alright, now I should get to Quirk training. So, you know, he starts off with the same kind of training he usually does, where he will push the water back and then pull it forward. You know what I mean? You know, Deku's like, he's never really had to try to do it full power because he was in he had a bathtub, so, like, he never really attempted it full power. But, you know, he's like, I might as well give it, you know, one try and stuff like that. So he tries it with all his force to, like, push the water back. And, you know, he noticed that it goes back a pretty far fucking distance, probably about, like, we're gonna say, it goes, like, 20 feet forward. Like, you know, he goes 20 feet back, you know. So, you know, he's like, alright, you know, I have it at a pretty good fucking distance for how much I've trained as a kid. Which, you know, he did train pretty damn hard as a kid. It's, like, to the point where he would be at Quirk exhaustion quite often. But, you know, it all came to, you know, good worth. So after that, you know, Deku's like, alright, well, I should start finding different ways of sort of training it. So, you know, he continues on finding new ways training just because I can't be asked to find new ways training. You know, at, like, around, we'll say the 8 months part, you know, he eventually, he gets, like, this large, like, you know, body of water, you know, he throws it up in the air, and immediately, you know, he noticed something off. So when it lands, a lot of the water, like, you know, it sinks through into the sand, you know, and gets it, like, you know, and makes it wet sand. But he also notices that there are a few, like, chunks of ice. You know, Deku's like, okay, that doesn't seem normal. You know, so he starts trying to, like, you know, do this some more. He starts trying to, like, see what he can do with, you know, the water more. And eventually, he realizes that he can make ice, but not really at a crazy amount. A pretty average amount he can make ice. So, you know, of course, Deku's pretty damn excited about this, because this is like a whole new ability of his, what's it called? Of his quirk. So he's like, alright, bet, you know, I can make ice. This is gonna be awesome. You know, so he starts training that while still training his water, of course, because no matter what, his water is his main ability. You know? So Deku, you know, he starts, like, trying to make more, you know, sort of ice-based attacks, while seeing, like, if there's any way to control it, because as much as throwing, like, a glacier is cool, like, what if he'll need, like, an ice weapon or something? He doesn't really know, but, you know, could be. And then, while he's thinking that, he's like, could I make a water-based weapon? So, you know, he still has, like, a few things of trash that, like, the trash people can't pick up in one go. So, like, he grabs, like, one fridge and, you know, he puts it there. He's like, alright. You know, at first he tries to, like, make a sword, but that doesn't work. He's like, okay, maybe I need to focus on, like, a different weapon. So he's like, what's a weapon that's, like, more fluid moving? What's, like, you know, easier to move around? He's like, nunchucks maybe? He's like, nah, they still got, like, a stiffness to them, you know? Deku's like, a whip! You know? He's like, alright, you know? So he gets, like, the water and stuff like that. He gets, like, a small batch of water towards his hand, you know, and he sort of, like, swings it around at first and then just shoots it forward, and then it just slices right through the damn fridge. You know, Deku's like, holy shit! He's like, that is fucking awesome! I didn't know I could do that! You know, Deku, for the most part, has thought of his quirk as sort of rescue-based quirk. You know, but he also realizes how dangerous that is, because he just cut through a whole refrigerator like it was butter. So he's like, alright. I think I need to find a less lethal way of using this. So, you know, he starts trying to lower it down a bit to where, like, he sort of impacts the fridge rather than just slice. And he realized, like, you know, it's how thin he's making the water, you know what I mean? So he made the water, like, have, like, a bit more of a thickness to it, a little bit more chunk to it, you know what I mean? More chunk to it. Oh my god. Oh, I'm a clown. You know, he puts a little bit more chunk in that, you know, whip, and, you know, he hits it, and that bitch gets sent flying. So, you know, Deku, he's like, alright, you know, that's pretty fucking good. If I'm fighting, like, a villain who has, like, a pretty much strength-based quirk and can take a few hits, stuff like that, you know. Deku's like, and the whip could be useful for, like, rescue and stuff. So, and, you know, Deku thinks about it. He's like, if I can, like, shoot a whip out, what if I could, like, get it to wrap around someone, you know, stuff like that. So now, like, Deku's, like, trained with how versatile his water can be and how useful it can be in certain situations. And, you know, he does this for a while until, boom, they reach the entrance exam. You know, Deku, he's like, alright, you know, I'm pretty excited about this. You know, he thinks, like, what if they don't really have any source of water around? You know, he's like, well, there's piping, like, everywhere, but I don't think they'd really appreciate me stealing, like, or breaking through a whole fucking pipe. So he's like, alright, you know, whatever, I guess. So after that, you know, Deku's like, I'll just grab, like, a jug of water for myself, and I'll just be like, yeah, it's for my quirk. They probably won't have too much of an issue with it, you know. So after that, Deku goes to, you know, he goes to the exam area, you know, he enters and he sees Bakugo and stuff like that. He's not as nervous, so he wouldn't trip or anything like that. He just heads straight inside, you know. So he first handles his written test, which I'll say Deku is pretty decently smart. He's not by any means a genius, but he's pretty damn smart. So, you know, he does pretty well on the written portion, and now it's the physical portion where he's fighting stuff, you know. So they explain the robots and stuff, but, you know, Deku's like, alright, it'll make sense. So, like, as, you know, everybody's heading to their different area, Deku gets Deku gets stopped by, we'll say, who would stop him, really? We'll say, who's the second one? We're gonna say it's Vlad King, yep. So Vlad King, you know, he stops Deku and he's like, sorry kid, but you know, you can't have that much water with you. You don't really need that much water, and the test's like only an hour. If you can't handle that, you probably don't need to be here. You know, Deku's like, well, it's sort of for my quirk, you know. Vlad King, you know, he's like, listen kid, you can't have items that are based off of your quirk here with you, you know. And Deku's like, but like, that guy came in with like his little, I don't know what it is. He's talking about like Ayama's belt shit. You know, he's like, well, that kid needs it in order to control his quirk. You know, Deku's like, well, I need this to control my quirk. He's like, what's your quirk? Deku's like, water manipulation. You know, Vlad King, he thinks about it for a bit. He's like, you can probably find some other source of water. You don't need to bring a whole jug of water with you. You know, Deku, like, looks at Vlad King, and, you know, he's like a bit annoyed by this, because, like, favoritism, like, what the fuck. So he's like, alright, okay. So he hands Vlad King, you know, the jug after he takes a few gulps for himself. And, you know, Vlad King takes it, and he's like, good luck on your test, kid. You know, Deku's like, yeah, thanks. So, you know, Deku starts walking off. And, you know, this will come to bite Vlad King in the ass later. But, you know, Deku, after that, he heads out to the training area. You know, they're waiting, and, you know, Deku tries to walk up to the front. Ida stops him. He's like, are you trying to talk to that girl? Chop, chop, chop. You know, Deku's like, no, chop, chop, chop. I'm trying to get to the front of the line so that I can get in the test quicker. And, you know, Ida's like, oh. What the fuck? Oh, give me a second. Alright. So, where was I? I was probably Deku walking up to the... So, you know, Deku walks up to the gate, and President Mike, he's like, alright, everybody, 3, 2, 1, go! And, you know, everybody runs in and stuff. So Deku, you know, he runs in as well. You know, he walks up, you know, not runs in, oh my god, what's going on with me? He runs in as well. You know, he goes into the middle area, right? Immediately, you know, Deku looks straight up to the stands, because, you know, he knows Vlad King is up there, because that's a teacher. He looks up to, like, the area where the teachers would be and stuff. And, you know, Deku, he, like, reaches his hands to the ground, right? You know, like, I was like, what's the kid doing? You know, Nezu's like, I'm not quite sure either. You know, right then, Deku, like, you know, he flexes his arms a bit, because this is going to cause a bit of effort, you know. And he throws his hands up in the air. And right then, a bunch of water just starts geysering out in different areas. You know, like, President Mike's like, where is all that water coming from? And, you know, like, All Might's up there like, I'm not quite sure myself. You know, Nezu was like, well, that's our piping. You know, like, you know, Aizawa looks at Nezu like, huh? You know, he's like, that's the school piping. That's all of the piping right there. You know, so Aizawa, he's pissed. He's like, this kid just made a bunch of property damage that's going to deduct so many points off. And, Vlad King walks in holding a jug of water, and, he's looking around, and everyone's looking at him like, Vlad? Vlad's like, oh yeah, sorry, this kid was talking about how he needed this for his quirk or something, and then I was like, what's your quirk? He's like, water manipulation, and then I was like, just give it here, and you could use some other source of water. So, everybody, like, looks at him like, are you fucking serious? He's a bit confused, and then they point to, like, a certain camera, and then Vlad King sees, and he's like, oh, damn. He's like, yeah, and Nezu's like, well, that's getting docked from your pay. But anywho, let's watch. So, now that everyone knows that that's not cutting their paycheck, they're completely on board with this kid. So, immediately, Deku, he starts, like, making, like, a bunch of very large sort of water whips, right? He starts, like, whipping straight towards different, like different sort of robots, smacking them, crushing them and all that, But he's not really, like, using a crazy amount of water. Most of it's, like, sort of hitting the ground just because he had to open it up. And Nezu's like, doesn't seem like he controlled all of the water yet. Aizawa also is like, or maybe he's just preserving his strength. He uses it later. Nezu's confused, and Aizawa's like, look, the kid's barely struggling with it, so he's probably not using all of the water he can. So Nezu's like, that's a pretty smart observation. So, Deku's doing this, he's handling, and he's racking up points, man. When I tell you, this guy is pulling it all up, because he's not only, like, I wouldn't say he's, like, only just smashing the robots, like, the robots that are, like, a little bit too far for him to reach. I'd say he's, like, messing with the water inside their cooling system and, like, just making them fry themselves, which I was wondering, like, why are the robots overheating? Nezu explains what he thinks happens, and they decide to just count a part of Deku's points. Deku is racking them up, man. It's wild. So, then after that, Deku, he pants a little bit. He's like, alright, I think I've done enough. I'll let everybody else have some points, So Deku, like, he makes a little geyser of water at his feet to, like, shoot him up. He sort of just, like, sits at a building. He waits. He chills, because he's positive. I have way too many points. And, Deku kind of feels bad, because, like, a lot of people who would, like, normally be killing robots and handling them couldn't really get too many robots because he's been just wrecking them. So he decided to stop so that people could get their robots in. So, then the test starts going normally. Nezu decides to give them a little bit more time before the 0-pointer showed up. Just because, well, nobody really had time to get any points. After that, Nezu's like, alright, send out the 0-pointer. He pokes a button. And then this huge fucking robot starts coming out. Everybody's running. Deku's sitting in a building, so he's kind of relaxed and stuff. So, after he reaches the building, he, like, he sees that this girl, she's running away from the robot, but she's a little bit slow. And then after that, he sees that some of, like, some of the stone just falls down and, like, hits her and just stops her from running. Deku's like, oh shit, that's not good. The robot's coming in quick, about to crush her. So, Deku, he's not sure if the teachers have noticed yet, but he decides, well, I'm not doing anything really better. So, he immediately, like, grabs a ass ton of water that's just laying there waiting to be used. And, like, he swirls it around from the top of the building, mind you. He swirls it around all the way towards the robot before smashing it upwards at the robot, which sort of slows the robot down, which, he holds it there for a second trying to, like, keep the robot stopped, but he's struggling, and then he notices the girl's still not moving. So, he's like, alright, maybe this will work, So he uses his water, and like he tries slowly freezing it, which like the ice is starting to spread, but it's not really crazy fast. So Deku has to hold the water while freezing the ice. But eventually, over time, he freezes all of the water. The robot stopped in his tracks. Deku then, he hops down, like using sort of like water slide to get down the building. He throws the rubble off and helps Uraka, because, we all know it's Uraka. So, they're walking away from the robot, who's at this point just been shut down because they noticed that Uraka was in trouble. And they're like, alright, that's hero points. He stopped the robot. Aizawa is also like, he turned the water into ice. Is that in water manipulation? This is like, there's probably a little bit more to his quirk than just water manipulation, but we can figure it out. So, Deku, he's like, alright, well, that was pretty fucking neat. So, like, he sees that Uraka's leg's pretty hurt. He's like, damn, that looks really painful. I'm not gonna give him healing. You're fucking crazy if you think I'm giving him healing, at least right now. Like, come on, bro. So, Deku, he waits, and then, what's her name again? Recovery Girl, yes. Recovery Girl. And, she comes over, and she's like, oh, come here. And, she gives Uraka a kiss. And Deku's like, well, you're welcome. And, he heads off. And, yeah. Let me think here. Yep. So he heads home after the test. He waits for the letter. The letter comes in. Of course, he's accepted. And yeah, welcome to your Hero Academia. And that, everyone, is where I'm going to leave this off. I know this was kind of a quick-paced one, but, like, I'm not going to lie. I sort of just started recording the moment I really came up with the idea like crazy, with, like, very little hinged on the actual idea. So if this felt like sort of rushed, yeah, that's why. But yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed. If you haven't, I'm sorry. If you have, that's great. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.